The night was cold, the kind that cuts through worn-out coats and empty pockets. Rain dripped from the rusted rooftops of an old Detroit neighborhood where the streetlights flickered like they were too tired to keep trying. On that lonely sidewalk stood Tanya Reed, a 26-year-old woman whose life had been one long string of disappointments. Her sneakers were soaked, her backpack torn, and her wallet held only $8, her last $8. It wasn't even enough for a meal and a bus ticket home. She stared at the diner across the street, debating whether to spend her last bit of money on something hot or save it for tomorrow. Hunger growled in her stomach, but pride whispered, "Hold on. You'll figure it out." That's when she heard the thunder. Not from the sky, but from engines. A line of roaring motorcycles came tearing down the street, chrome shining even through the drizzle. Their leather jackets gleamed under the neon lights, each one marked with the same emblem, a flaming skull with wings. Hell's Angels. Most people crossed the street when they saw that logo. Tanya didn't. She just stepped aside, clutching her backpack tighter, watching as the bikers parked near the diner. One of them, a tall, broad man with a gray beard and tattoos crawling up his arms, stumbled off his bike, gripping his chest. She saw him collapse before anyone else did. People nearby froze. Some backed away. But Tanya dropped her bag and ran toward him. "Sir, hey."
"Can you hear me?"
she shouted, kneeling beside him. The man's breathing was shallow, his face pale. The other bikers rushed over, shouting for help. Someone yelled, "He's having a heart attack!" But they didn't know what to do. Tanya didn't hesitate. She tore open her backpack, pulling out an old plastic bag. Inside was a bottle of water, some tissues, and her last $8 folded inside an envelope. She slipped the money out, used the envelope to fan the man's face, and poured a few drops of water onto his lips. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Stay with me, big guy." An ambulance siren wailed in the distance. The bikers stood around her in silence, huge and intimidating, watching this small, exhausted girl trying to keep their brother alive. When the paramedics arrived, they loaded the man onto a stretcher. Tanya followed them all the way to the ambulance, handing over the last of her cash. "Take it," she said, "please. He needs it more than I do." The medic stared at her, confused. "Ma'am, you don't have to pay—" But she pressed the crumpled bills into his hand anyway. "Just make sure he's okay." The biker's friends thanked her quietly, but Tanya didn't stay to talk. She just waved once and walked away into the rain, disappearing down the street before anyone could ask her name. The next morning, Tanya woke up in the tiny shelter she called home. The roof leaked, and her thin blanket did little against the cold. She had no food, no money, and no idea what she'd do next. But for the first time in a long time, she felt proud of herself. She spent the day walking through the city, looking for odd jobs. Every door she knocked on gave her the same answer. "Sorry, we're not hiring." By evening, her stomach ached from hunger. Then she heard it again, the roar of engines. At first, she thought she was imagining it. But when she turned the corner, there they were, at least 100 motorcycles lined up in front of the shelter. Men and women in leather jackets, helmets shining, engines rumbling like thunder. The same logo, the same group. Hell's Angels. The crowd outside the shelter froze. People whispered, unsure if this was trouble or something else. And then Tanya saw him. The same gray-bearded man she'd helped, standing beside a gleaming black Harley, alive and smiling. His chest still had hospital bandages peeking from under his shirt. He spotted her immediately. "There she is!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the street. The bikers parted as he walked toward her, his heavy boots splashing in puddles. Tanya froze, clutching her jacket, unsure what to say. "You saved my life," he said, stopping in front of her. His voice trembled slightly. "The doctor said a few more minutes and I wouldn't be here." "I just did what anyone would have done," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, nobody else moved. You did. You gave your last dollar to help a stranger." He turned to the crowd of bikers and raised his hand. "Brothers and sisters, let's show her what that means to us." Engines roared. People gasped. And then Tanya saw it. 2 bikers rolled forward a brand new motorcycle, polished and shining, with a note taped to the handlebars. The man handed her the keys. "Her name's Angel," he said. "She's yours now. And so is this." He gave her an envelope. Inside was $5,000 in cash and a card that read, "For the girl who gave her last $8 to save a stranger. You reminded us that humanity still exists." Tanya's eyes filled with tears. "I can't accept this. I didn't do it for money. He smiled softly. That's exactly why you deserve it. That moment went viral. Someone had recorded the scene on their phone and uploaded it with the caption, "A homeless woman helped a dying biker with her last $8. This is how 100 Hell's Angels thanked her." Within days, millions of people saw it. Tanya became a symbol of kindness in a world that had forgotten what compassion looked like. Donations poured in from strangers who said her story gave them hope. But fame wasn't what changed her life. Family did. The bikers started visiting her every week. They brought food, clothes, and laughter back into her world. They helped her find a job at a local diner, then paid her tuition for community college. The man she'd saved, his name was Bill Hammer Dalton, became like a father to her. Every Sunday, he'd ride over just to check on her, bringing her flowers and stories from the road. Once Tanya asked him, "Why did you all do this for me?" "You didn't have to." He smiled. "You gave me something no money could buy. You gave me proof that kindness still lives in this world. We just paid it forward." A year later, Tanya had her own small apartment. She'd finished a nursing certification program, inspired by the paramedics she'd seen that rainy night. On her wall hung a single photo, her, Bill, and the rest of the biker family standing beside the motorcycle they'd given her. Under the photo was a handwritten note. "The world is still good. Don't stop believing in people." Tanya often rode her bike through the city, the engine humming like a heartbeat beneath her. She'd stop at soup kitchens, shelters, and street corners, handing out food in small envelopes with 8 bills inside. Every time someone asked why, she'd smile and say, "Because once, someone showed me what real strength looks like." And if you'd seen her riding down that same street where her story began, you'd never guess she'd once been a girl with nothing. Because now Tanya carried something far greater than money, a legacy of kindness born from her last $8. Even the smallest act of compassion can ripple across lives you've never met. One choice, one moment of courage, can turn strangers into family and darkness into hope. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.